Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Spilling Tea. I'm your host, Tiffany Daniels. We'll get to the JRC in a moment. First, brief disclaimers. If you're unfamiliar with the Stop the Shocks campaign or the campaign against the troubled teen industry, all pertinent links can be found right there in the description box. Should you like to do a deep dive, you should be able to do so. Trigger warning, this channel is marked not for kids for a reason. I do use profanity, and when we talk about places like the Dutz Rotenberg Educational Center, you're going to hear vivid descriptions of and catch clips or surveillance footage of people with mental health issues and disabled people being tortured and abused. So if you have children that are 16 and younger and they watch the channel, parental supervision very much advised, alright? Now this is coming from an individual, Elliot Gavin Keenan. And this one says here, my name is Elliot Gavin Keenan. I'm a doctoral candidate at UCLA and a visitor scholar at Stony Brook University. I study autism and I am also autistic. I was diagnosed at the age of 6. My parents were told that I was high functioning. I want to talk about this concept. What does it mean to be high or low functioning or to have severe autism? That comes from dinosaurs, my dear friend. That comes from dinosaurs who don't understand that functionality can fluctuate with us. There are those who are more affected by some things and not others. We tend to try within the community to stay away from those labels because it's more complex than that. I mean, I can be considered, like, on any normal day as, according to them, very high functioning. And if I do a stint on Black Friday like I did the year before last, where I had back-to-back 13-hour days for about 3.5 days, do the math. And by the end of it, I had almost lost my ability to speak. I had, due to the stress and just sheer exhaustion, almost went completely nonverbal and kind of remained that way for like 2 solid days afterwards. So, we try to say, I tend to use on myself a functionality scale, which varies from day to day. And it depends on the individual too as to what that scale looks like. It's different for each of us. It's just, as I said, it's more complex than that. Again, why treatment should be catered towards the individual, not just the diagnosis itself. Because what I need severe help with might not be something that you have any issues with at all, but you have extreme issues with. I may not have it at all. So we got to get away from high-low levels and think of it more as the spectrum it is and a sliding scale of functionality. But let me go ahead and continue. It says, for me, what my parents were told when I was 6 was important and meaningful ways a lie. I have bipolar 1 disorder. When I was 9 years old, I fell into a dark depression that lasted several years. This was due to the genes I was born with, and many of those genes are the same genes that cause autism. Honey, we don't know that 100% for sure yet. My normal is far from the normal day-to-day life parents envision for their children. Over the past several years, I've been hospitalized 20 times in a locked inpatient psychiatric unit. Whenever people post guidelines on what constitutes low functioning, I can't help but compare myself to whatever arbitrary metric is being touted today to capture what is really an ineffable sort of quality. That's why I'm saying we are, as autistic beings, on any given day on a functionality scale. And it can change from minute to minute, hour to hour, day to day, year to year. We're always on that functionality scale. And what impacts where we land on that particular scale depends on our environment, what's going on at the time. Are we surrounded by anyone? Are we not surrounded by anyone? Is there some sensory things going out in the area? You get what I'm saying, right? Because these things can also deeply and very meaningfully impact our level of functionality, right? Like when I go off my routine, even just the smallest bit, my brain goes again into autistic brain fog where everything for some weird reason tastes like cotton fibers. And I'm just pretty much rendered useless for the rest of the day. Like, and if I'm in autism brain fog, whatever chores, whatever I had planned, it goes out the window. Because I know even trying to force myself to do it, it never ends well. Right? That's what I mean by functionality scale. On any general day, they would call me high functioning. Most of the time, they're not there for the moments that, like autistic fog brain, like when I miss a step in my routine, when I have those sensory issues, the fact that there are literally certain types of cloth I cannot wear, because if I do, my texture sensory issues manifest into physical hives. Yeah, physical hives. Wish I was kidding. But yeah, that's why I say it's a sliding functionality scale. Now that's not professional lingo, that just comes straight from my own brain. Independent living said we tried it and failed. My parents now keep me in their home. Personal safety or need for supervision. I'm chronically suicidal and have a history of medically serious drug overdose. Hygiene, showering once a week isn't that bad, and I won't brush my teeth unless someone physically forces me to. It may seem odd to include bipolarity in our assessment of functioning as it relates to autism, but it's really not. I'm coming with someone who has mental health issues myself. A lot of us are dual diagnosers. Myself, definitely. Definitely. And they impact each other. My PTSD gets triggered. Once that's triggered, it can trigger a full, very physical and scary autistic meltdown. So I have an idea. Let me continue. We've been bundling intellectual disability together with autism like a buy one, get one gift for years. Yeah, that's kind of not how that works, hun. True, not every condition that a person can experience is comorbid with autism at the population level, but many are. I'm talking about almost every psychiatric disorder, epilepsy, GI problems, and more. If these conditions impact level of functioning, is that not the severity of autism? No, hon, it's not. It's not. Do they impact one another? Oh, they absolutely do. Absolutely they do. But it wasn't a buy one, get one. My mental health issues, I have post-traumatic stress disorder, OCD tendencies, anxiety disorder, and clinical depression. A lot of these issues pop up not from autism, but from living in a world that's not built for me, with a population that seems to be particularly hostile and almost pre-programmed to bully those of us who are neurodivergent. So, They may impact one another. They definitely influence one another. But autism did not cause the other disorders that you're speaking of. That can be impacted by different genes, different parts within the DNA. But don't they all come from the same place? Yes and no. Yes and no. But that is going deeper into science than I have the qualifications to discuss, to be perfectly honest. But yes, I have comorbid mental health issues. I do not think the autism is what gave me those issues. I believe those issues really do stem from being a neurodivergent in a hostile neurotypical world. Now, some of us have that in far more dark and personal ways and taught way too young that very message. Me being one of those. But you see where I'm going here, right? It didn't cause those things. But they can coexist. By associating the constituent parts of one greater entity from each other, we can fit them into neat boxes and minimize the importance of some. Oh, honey, my sweet summer child. It's not that easy. You cannot place those mental health issues in the same box with your autism. They may influence, impact, and trigger one another, but the genes in and of themselves are heredity of our neurodivergence. Does not carry along with it these other issues. Although you can be predisposed towards those issues due to genes received from your maternal or paternal side, they're not related to each other, which is why they're usually looked into separately. There is a reason I still have a whole team of neurologists, psychiatrists, and psychologists to make sure to address all that needs to be addressed, and why I always keep an open line of communication with myself and the other members of that particular medical team. So, they do impact one another. When that happens, I need a whole lot of help. But one didn't come from the other. See where I'm going there? There's other genetic conditions that I have that come from my mom. I know some of my autistic habits mirror some of her more antisocial ways. But my tachycardia, when my heart starts beating way, way too fast, like towards cardiac arrest levels, I get that from her. There's also extreme neurodivergent signs and neurodivergent people on both sides of my family, both dad's side and my mom's side. You see where I'm going, right? We inherit a lot of things from our parents. But that would be like saying my hair is brown because I'm autistic. And I got the brown hair from my dad. I may have got autism from my dad. You can't put it in boxes like that. That's not how genetics works. It's not how human genes or DNA works. And you gotta work on them all. Period. And you gotta work on them all separately. But you also gotta work on all of it together in regards to finding coping mechanisms when one begins to impact the other. I humbly ask the IACC to consider, in context of modern controversies, the role of comorbid conditions play in the severity or support needs of autism, and how functioning categories may be misleading. People don't follow straight lines. A lot of rhetoric plays on the perceived impossibility of high-functioning adult regressing into low-functioning territory. But these labels aren't individuals, they're states of experience that we may live in or pass through on our journeys. Finally, we need to study comorbid conditions in autism across all levels of functioning. That's the thing. There is no comorbid conditions in autism. You, the human being, have comorbid conditions. Autism doesn't have anything. Autism is just autism. Okay? I don't have tachycardia in autism. Let me start with that. I don't have constant, never-ending leg spasms and involuntary muscle movement in my legs at all times in autism. I just have legs that spasm constantly. But if it is like a major ice storm going on, those spasms in my legs, the pain can affect me, and you might see some traits of my diagnosis come out a little bit stronger than they ordinarily would. To just use that as an example. I have wondered for years in regards to where we're landing on functionality and how we differ so much from one another while still sharing core traits. But I don't think that it's comorbid conditions in autism. No, honey. We need more information on comorbid conditions, period, and how they interact and impact with one another across the board. That's been my opinion for a minute. But anyways, we're going to close out on that one, folks. We don't get very many views on this channel. The few we do get do tend to get removed from time to time. So if you folks would be so kind, please don't forget to hit the like button, hit subscribe, don't forget to hit the comments, and make sure that you are still set up to receive notifications. We are indeed still continuing on with the Snake Oil Salesman series, as well as Down the Rabbit Hole. We don't want you all missing anything. I do appreciate your time, and as always, we here at Spilling Tea do hope you have a good one. I will see you all next time. Bye-bye now.